Hey everyone, I'm Ray. I'm one of the engineers on the Cablecast team, and I'm going to be walking you through the new VIO server line and Cablecast 7.0 today. So I have a few slides, but mostly I'm just going to be clicking through the product and kind of demoing the features as we get to them. So let's go ahead and get started. So Cablecast VIO and the 7.0 release. So the VIO servers is our latest server. It's a complete hardware redesign compared to our Flex or our SX servers previously. It's supporting the latest generation Xeon E-series processors. We have all SSD system drives. We have hardware accelerated graphics chipsets in them, which we're starting to take advantage of. The kind of storage is all expandable depending on which model you choose. So really good refresh on our hardware. So there's 3 models currently: the VIO Lite, which is a 1RU server. It has 2 IO channels. It doesn't have any redundant power, redundant storage, or anything like that. It's kind of our entry-level model, but it can do either 2 channels, or it can do 1 channel and an encode channel. And it can do, we'll get to this a little bit later, it can do the bulletin board, all built into 1 RU package. Then we have the VIO 2, which is our kind of step up from the VIO Lite. It comes in a 3 RU chassis, still just 2 IO channels, but it has flexible RAID storage. So it comes with 6 times 2 terabytes of storage minus the parity drive. But basically it comes with a bunch of storage, but then you can add up to, we have different models with different drive sizes. You can find all the pricing information for that on our website. It does have redundant power as well as the RAID 5 storage for the content, and mirrored system drive storage for your operating system. And then finally the VIO 4, again in a 3 RU channel. This time comes with 4 IO channels. So it could do, like, say 3 out, 1 in, or 2x2. And again, has all the redundant power, flexible RAID storage. They all have the same latest, they all have the latest generation Xeon chips, hardware accelerated chipsets. So really cool server line. But what makes Cablecast Cablecast is the software. So let's start getting into the Cablecast 7.0 software. So get out of presentation mode here. So the first thing I want to get into is thumbnails. So I'm going to go ahead and schedule something real quick. I think I have a Democracy Now! Episode here. I'm going to go ahead and send autopilot on that. And then go to my main menu. And within a few seconds, we just saw it switch from Bulletin board to air in Democracy Now! This is a couple weeks old. But you can see we have heads up thumbnails now. So this is my real server output coming out my VIO server in real time. And that goes for both the force matrix and the heads up screen. So in the force matrix, I get thumbnails of my video output here, and then also my video input here on my encoder. If I want to see a bigger thumbnail, I can go ahead and click the status for the output, and I can see what's going on in real time. And you can see that there's this little SCC icon here. That's our channel branding. That's our bug for this channel. So it's showing you actually what's going out onto the channel, not just like the video previews. These update about every 2 seconds, and it works across all the servers. So if you have a system with multiple servers, it all works. It doesn't really, it's not limited to just one video server. So the other place where we kind of brought thumbnails more front and center is when you're choosing a thumbnail. So Cablecast, when you generate, when you add a show record and it indexes the files for you, we generate a random thumbnail for you. And lots of times that thumbnail works really well. It goes onto your public site, it goes into your screen weave over the top apps, but sometimes we pick a bad thumbnail. And so what we did was, now when we generate thumbnails for a show, we generate a few and we let you choose different thumbnails. So in this case, this is an older dev system, but we only have 2 thumbnails, but typically we generate 5 to 6 thumbnails and then can let you choose. So for this episode, the picture of the guy with the Capitol building in the background is a much better thumbnail selection. And so we go ahead and choose that thumbnail, just save the show record. And now that would be used on our public site, Apple TV, Roku apps, everything, everywhere where we use that thumbnail. We have new codec libraries and playback for playback and encode. So the first let's cover the playback side. So one of the digital files I put on the system, show ID 9999, if we look at it, it's a valid file, but it's definitely not something that would have played on an older generation server. The frame size is 1888 by 1602, and the frame rate is 24 frames per second. So, you know, some very creative type decided they really like that slow blur effect that 24 frames per second gives, and they uploaded this file to us. So this would typically not be considered a broadcast resolution. Broadcast resolutions would be like NTSC, 1080i, 720p. But we can take this file now and we will do our best to scale it and convert the frame rate and color space and all the other kind of aspects of the video to get it into the output resolution of your video server. So if we come right here to the force matrix, and I just want to play that file, 9999, and we'll go ahead and send that file. And if we get a bigger thumbnail of it, this is that video, that MP4 file playing right now, and it's playing great. It plays with in-sync audio, and it looks actually pretty good, even though it's not made for broadcast television. On the encoding side, where this changes a little bit is the VIO servers can support different encoding options. So if we go into the device configuration for our VIO encoder, we'll see our new codec selection is either H.264 or MPEG-2. And so the H.264 is the big deal here. It allows us to drastically reduce the bit rate of our, like, especially government meetings and other things where having a very high bitrate file is not desirable due to the length of the files. And so we've been playing around with like 5 to 6 megabits for 1080 HD content, and that looks pretty good. If it's talking head, not a lot of motion, you can even drop it down to like 2 to 3 megabits per second. And this is compared with your last generation Flex server, where the lowest bitrate we had available was MPEG-2 at 25 megabits per second for HD content. So a drastic savings in storage space, and the content's already ready to go in H.264. So next thing I want to cover is our, so that would cover the codec libraries and the conversion capabilities. I also want to talk about some of the digital file uploading. So right now on your servers, if you have servers or if you're thinking about buying one, the typical way you get the content onto your system is to drag it over a network share. And this can be problematic for a number of reasons. It's a lot of people just make the share available to everyone, and then everyone has access to all the content on it, and anyone can mistakenly delete things, stuff like that. It's also inconvenient if you want to be able to say, if you have a VPN or if you have your Cablecast system available on the public internet, you want to be able to upload files to your video server from home. You know, if I'm finishing a shoot, a production on my laptop in Final Cut or something, you know, I finish it, I want to get it on the server. I want to just export it and upload it, and I don't want to have to drive to the station to do that. I used to work at a station, and I always used to have to go in on the weekends to put stuff on the server that was exporting last minute. And so what this lets us do is, if we go into digital files, we can choose the upload button and then choose a new file. I'm going to just choose that building community one again. Actually, I'm going to choose something different. Let's see. Let's do this small one. So I'll choose this test MP4. And then I can choose to rename it right now. So I can call it like My Awesome Show. And then I can choose which server. I mistakenly typed this one as VOD, but this is really the VIO server. And I can go ahead and upload it. And this, you'll see a little progress bar at the bottom of my screen here. And I can go do other things while this is uploading. My internet connection is not going to be great since I'm doing this web conference, but the progress bar is slowly moving along. There's no file upload limits. We could upload a 2 gig file just as easily as we could upload a 2 meg file. When the file is finished uploading, it'll be moved to your video server and processed just as if you had dropped the file on the content drive yourself. So now it's really easy to kind of upload your content from anywhere. And also, you don't have to let it sit here. You can go and do other things. So I could come into the schedule. I could go into the force matrix. My force show ended, so I'm going to go ahead and put my CG back on there. And the upload is going to continue happening in the background. So thumbnails everywhere, new codec libraries for playback and record, new conversion capabilities. You saw that we could play that really weird sized file with really odd frame rate, and digital file uploading. The next thing I want to talk about is Cablecast CG. What Cablecast CG is we're bringing the power of Carousel into Cablecast. So if those of you who aren't familiar with Carousel, it's our bulletin board digital signage product. And it has driven on-air bulletin boards for hundreds of TV stations for a long time. But as the product evolved, it didn't always have bulletin boards and community media and public broadcasts in mind. It was more leaning towards a digital signage product. But it still really worked well for bulletin boards, but it was hard to kind of take the product in both directions. And so what we're doing is we're bringing the power of Carousel into Cablecast, calling it Cablecast CG. And as we move forward, we can use it to really make a first-class bulletin board experience, and also use features from it to power other things in the TV landscape. So it powers the bulletin board playout from a video server. So the VIO servers are capable of doing a full, what used to be called a Carousel CG bulletin board, directly in the video server without any additional hardware. It's just a software license to add bulletin board capability to your VIO server. So that means you can have a single channel all in one box, play out, and then bulletin board with no additional hardware, no scan converters or anything like that. Just all comes out the SDI connector on your video server. And it also allows us to kind of combine traditional scheduling with the bulletin board and the Cablecast content, and they can be composited together, and we can do really cool things like squeeze back animations. So let me show you some of those things now. The first thing is, here's Cablecast CG. So if you're familiar with Carousel, it's going to look a lot like Carousel. So it has the same basic interface. We can go in here, we can add bulletins, we can select which zone we want to work in. So if I wanted to, say, add something to your town video, I can make a new hello message, go ahead and publish that, and that would now be part of my bulletin board. So same great interface there, just all built into Cablecast, one login, one user experience. But we can start using some of those Carousel features to drive some of your Cablecast features. So for instance, channel branding. So putting a channel logo, a bug text, crawl, that kind of thing on your channel output. On a SX or a Flex server, it used to be this third application that was only available from the desktop of the machine. It was really hard to kind of visualize what your channel is going to look like with this logo applied at this transparency, that kind of thing. And so now that's all built right into Cablecast. So if we come into settings and go into system settings channels, we can go into the branding section for our channel. This allows us to configure two things. One is the branding itself. And so you can see this is what my channel branding will look like. I can change what background. Seeing it on a white background makes it look a little easier. But then if you've ever used the Carousel template editor, this probably looks very familiar to you. So if I want to kind of change where the bug is going to go, I select that as a bug, and now I can just drag and drop it to move it around the screen. I can put it down here in the lower right. I can come here to the picture and change the opacity, maybe knock it down to 65%. I can take the bug text. I could move that a little bit over, maybe right above the logo. change the color of it. So maybe make it more of an orangish color. And I have all these controls. I can even just decide that I want to go in here into settings and remove the crawl background altogether. And so if I go ahead and save this, pretty quickly, if I were to go look at my my output here, pretty quickly within a minute, because there's no autopilot send or anything, these changes are going to be picked up, and I'll be able to see that on my my output. And so I didn't have to load a desktop of a computer. I didn't have to use any special software. I did everything in my web browser, just like I'm used to doing everything in Cablecast. So let's go see if it's updated yet. The branding updates about every minute, unless like when a show is scheduled to start. So we can come back and look at this in about 30 seconds, and it should have all updated. So the other thing that was in there, if we go look at it, is your squeezebacks. So this is one of the cases where the power of Cablecast is really to kind of take the thing that 80% of people, 90% of people want to do most of the time, try to make it as simple as possible. So a lot of times you have a bulletin board that has is designed to play some video in it. You have useful information about that, like this zone in the left here might be your weather, community announcements. This bottom zone might be your schedule. And you want a time to play that, but you really don't want hours and hours of bulletin board. You want to keep the station active with high quality PSAs that you produce locally or that you get from the ad council and stuff like that. And so what Cablecast allows you to do is choose a channel for your bulletin board that happens during your filler content. So in this case, we're going to choose Your Town TV. You can pick whatever zone you want to squeeze the channel back into, but typically there's a zone that is kind of designed to have the content squeezed back into. And you just enable the squeeze back for your channel. And then when you have content that is designed for that squeeze back, and so I'm just going to make this show a little bit shorter so that we can demonstrate it. So let's make this 1 minute. And then I will put this about, say, at 12:02. Let's make it 11:02. And I'll fill this gap, and I'll just put some PSAs in between it, or migrate show. None of those fit. Let's see. Oh, it's too big. Let me move this out of the way. I'll just go ahead and make this. So if I fill it with, if I had more content on here, this would be a little bit easier. But if I fill it with that PSA, I have a filler run. And this is the fill gaps feature that's been released as part of 6.6. Filler runs will automatically, if there's squeezebacks enabled for the channel, squeeze back that PSA into your bulletin board while it's playing. And so I'm just going to move all of this to 11.25, 24. Say 45, just so I have time to send autopilot. Go ahead, send autopilot. And so what we'll see happen here is at 11:24:45, our 1 minute show is going to start playing. And I'm going to have to think about what to talk about for a minute while I wait for the next show to come on. So our show is starting, beginning Democracy Now! And then what's automatically going to happen if we go look at our event table is at 11:25:40, right after that PSA is going to start, it's going to set the overlay state. And what that overlay state is going to squeeze back the PSAs into that zone that we selected for the bulletin board channel. So should be happening in about 20 seconds. And the power of live demos, hopefully it goes according to plan. So if not, then we'll just move on. But know that the content will squeeze back. It's about a 2-second animation. We're still messing with the timing a little bit, but so in about 5 seconds, our next show is going to start airing. So here it comes, and you'll actually see how it's squeezing back 1 frame per second into your bulletin board. And it's going to show, our schedule on one side, our kind of community messages on the other side. And then after this PSA ends, it's going to, and this isn't actually a PSA, it's just a version of democracy now, unfortunately. But after this ends, it's going to zoom back in and take over the whole screen once we go back into non-filler regular scheduled programming. So we allow for squeeze back animations. We have much better channel branding. And there's a whole lot of features coming in the future that really tie your bulletin board and your on-air automation together more tightly and give you a very customized, polished-looking channel. Cablecast 7.1. So this demo is all about, this webinar is all about Cablecast 7.0 and the VIO servers. But we like to take care of our customers, and not everyone's going to rush out, much to our dismay, and buy the latest, greatest video server. So what Cablecast 7.1 coming towards the end of the summer is really about is bringing a lot of these features from 7.0 and that are introduced as part of the VIO servers back to existing customers with existing servers, just as part of a software upgrade. So I wanted to take a few minutes just before we start jumping into questions and getting into nitty-gritty details. Wanted to kind of cover real quickly what's going to be making it back to your existing hardware. And when I say existing hardware, I mean a server that you bought the last 3 to 4 years, a Flex server, which we've been selling for about 3 years now, and your current Cablecast CG hardware. So we're definitely going to be bringing back all the thumbnail features. So all the thumbnails that you see everywhere, the live previews of what's going on your channel, the encoder, that kind of stuff, that should all be coming back to your Flex servers with 7.1. Most of the playback codecs and conversion support, we can't bring back all the hardware accelerated stuff, but all the software codecs that we can, we're bringing back all the conversion support. So much better file compatibility. It should be rare now that you put in a file and we can't play it and we mark it as invalid. With great power comes great responsibility. Just because the server can play it doesn't mean you should. You'll always get the best results if you're putting on broadcast quality files, in a broadcast resolution. But in a pinch, if someone gives you a weird 24 frame per second file, you should be able to play it and it should look okay. You always get a little bit of a little motion artifact from all the scaling and stuff. The file uploading feature will be coming back to the existing servers. And using Cablecast CG for things like channel branding, layout design, that'll also be coming back. Cablecast CG will also be working on the latest generation Cablecast CG server. So if you have a CG 340, we will be bringing Cablecast CG back to that. You'll use the same Cablecast CG interface that I was just demoing here a little bit. The stuff that is VIO only, the built-in bulletin board on the server, so the ability for a bulletin board to come out one of the SDI spigots on your video server, that's a VIO only feature. And squeeze backs, because we don't have the built-in video server on the older servers, they can't do the compositing to squeeze back your PSAs and stuff onto your videos, your bulletin board output. But most of the other features, I dare say almost all of everything else, there might be something that I missed, will all be coming back to Cablecast 7.1 and existing features as long as you have a current software assurance contract. I hope people like what they saw and are excited about what we can build on top of this in the future. There's definitely in this this list here a lot of things that are hinting at things that we already want to do and want to do soon. I think people want the same things we want out of Cablecast going forward. So excited to start working on that.